Alrighty, so we are continuing on Unit 9, Lesson 2, and we're actually going to look at a couple of examples. So, what we are trying to do, we want to first determine the number of solutions, and then if we actually come up that we have any, one or two solutions, we want to solve. So we're going to solve if possible. And in a few minutes, whenever I give you your practice problems that are going to go into your notes, you'll follow the same instructions. So determine the number of solutions first, and then solve if you come up that you will actually have solutions. So our first example that we're going to look at, we have the system y plus x squared minus 2 equals negative x, and y equals 2x plus 2. That sounds good. Alright, so if you remember from Unit 9, Lesson 1, they both have to be set equal to y for us to be able to do anything with this. So I need to manipulate my top function first. It's always a possibility. So I want y over here by itself. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take x squared and move it over here and make it negative x squared. And then I'm going to take negative 2y and I'll move it over here and make it positive 2. So I'll end up y equals negative x squared minus x plus 2. And I keep my y equals 2x plus 2. So now they're both set equal to y, so I know they equal the same thing, so I'm going to set them equal to each other. So I get negative x squared minus x plus 2 equals 2x plus 2. And in order to determine how many solutions we actually have, I need it to be in standard form. So I need everything to be on the same side of the equal sign, just like if we were actually going through and solving this. So I'm going to subtract 2x, and then I will subtract 2 and subtract 2. So I end up with negative x squared minus 3x. And this cancels out to 0, but I'm going to keep my plus 0 equals. This cancels out, and this cancels out, so I get 0. I'm going to keep that 0 there just so it stays in standard form, and we can identify our A, our B, and our C for the determinant. Where we're going to now use, not the determinant, the discriminant. The discriminant to determine how many, totally spelled that wrong. Discriminant to determine how many solutions we have. So remember that's b squared minus 4ac. And so what are my a, my b, and my c? My a in this case is negative 1. My b is negative 3, right? A is the number in front of x squared. B is the number in front of x. And c is the number chilling all by itself. So in this case, 0. So I'm just going to plug it into my discriminant and see if I get a positive, a negative, or 0, so I can know how many solutions I have. So B, I'll get negative 3 squared minus 4, that's part of the formula, times A, which is negative 1, and then times C, which is 0. So what am I going to end up getting? Be careful, negative times a negative is going to give me a positive, so I have 9. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4 times 0 is 0. So I get 9 plus 0 equals to 9. I get a positive number, and if you remember, a positive means what? I'm going to have two solutions. So I know that I have solutions, so I'm going to go ahead and solve this quadratic and figure out what my solutions actually are. So I want to solve this. So I have negative x squared minus 3x plus 0 equals 0. It's easiest if I can get rid of the number that's in front of x squared, I'm going to get rid of that number. That number in this case is a negative 1, so I can just go through and divide everything by negative 1 and end up still with the same problem. So negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. And so now I have x squared plus 3x plus 0 equals 0. And we know how to factor that. It looks weird, but we can factor it. I need the numbers that multiply together to give me 0. So 0 and some other number. And when I add them together, I get 3. So this actually makes a pretty easy one. Should be 0 times 3, right? 0 times 3 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. And so our factors end up being x plus 0 and x plus 3 equals 0. And so setting them each equal to 0, this one, x will be equal to 0. And this one, x plus 3 equals 0, so x equals negative 3. And so I have my x values. Remember, the solution is the points that they cross each other. Points are the x and the y value, and so I need to figure out what my y values are now. So when I plug in 0, we're going to come back up here to the easiest equation to plug into. I have my x values, so now I'm going to plug in 0 and see what I get for y, and then I'll plug in negative 3 and see what I get for y. So in this case, I have, so I'm going to plug in x's. So I get y equals, when I plug in 0, I get 2 times 0 plus 2, which equals 0 plus 2, which equals 2. So I have the solution 0, comma 2. And I'll write that. I'll write it in a second. And then I'll plug in negative 3. And so I get y equals 2 times negative 3 plus 2. So I get negative 6 plus 2. So I get negative 4. So I end up that my two solutions, the 2 points of intersection, are 0, comma 2 and negative 3, comma negative 4. So there we go. Okay, let's try one more. Make sure we got it. So our second example, we have y minus 3 equals 2x squared. And I have y minus x equals 2. And so same exact predicament from last time. I have to have them both in y equals. So I need to move my 3 over. And remember what happens when it changes sides? Change signs. So I'm going to bring this over here as a positive 3. And I'll bring this x over as a positive x as well. So I get y equals 2x squared plus 3. And I get y equals positive x plus 2, or 2 plus x, either way. And so the first thing we want to do is use the put them together so we can use the discriminant and figure out how many actual solutions we have. They're both set equal to y now, so I can set them equal to each other. So I get 2x squared plus 3 equals x plus 2. Remember, everything has to be on the same side of the equal sign. I need 0 over here, so I'm going to subtract x. I don't have an x, so I'm just going to kind of put it in the middle. That's where it should go, if it's in standard form. And I will subtract 2. Subtract 2. And so my 2x squared comes down. My little negative x just chills in the middle right there. And then 3 minus 2 gives me a positive 1. So equals, these things should cancel out, but make sure that they do so we don't make mistakes over here. X minus x is definitely 0, and 2 minus 2 is definitely 0 as well. So I have 0 over there. Alright, so I have it now in standard form, so I'm going to use my discriminant, so b squared minus 4ac, figure out if I have any solutions at all before I actually go and try to solve this. So a in this case is 2. Remember the number in front of x squared. B is negative 1. And C is positive 1. So we're going to plug it into our discriminant. B, so negative 1 squared minus 4 times A is 2 times C is 1. So negative 1 squared gives me a positive 1 minus 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 1 is 8. So 1 minus 8 gives me -7. And if you recall from the first video, if we get a negative number, ta-da, then we will have no solutions at all. So this answer is just no solution, and we don't have to go any further because we know we ain't got none. So there we go, guys. Alright, if you have any questions, please remember that you can email me. Other than that, you do have practice problems. Make sure that you check to see how many solutions you actually have, and then if you have any, go ahead and solve it. Alright, and these do need to go into your notes. Y'all have a great day. Bye.